time of uncertainty, two men have emerged. Two men have found a way. Featuring Beechy and Blackers. Pincher, Operator Al, and the Mancologist. It's time for Sunday Night Live.
Please, thank you.
We are back. Sunday Night Live with me, Carl Beach, or Beechy, and my great mate Nathan Blackers. Here we are again. Also tonight with us, Pincher will be back with his music trivia. Big Phil is going to be talking the tricep and maybe some other little facts along the way. And we have a special guest.
Mate,
special guest.
It's all kicking off. Look at all these messages I'm queuing up. Dan Bellamy,
Hold on.
James Lerner, Keith Nesbitt. Look at this.
Andy Kine's going to be with us as well. So he'll be on a little bit later. Blackers, what kind of a week you had, mate?
It's been a good week, mate. It's another week in lockdown, and I have to say I am starting to get a little bit fatigued. I am a little bit. I'm looking for hobbies. I'm looking for stuff in lockdown that I can do. It's been a bit of a long week. What about you, mate? Another week in lockdown.
Yeah,
I'm starting to get a little bit fatigued.
Yeah, it's a funny one actually. So my audio just went really catastrophically weird then, but that happens on live shows, doesn't it? I think. I don't know. Can you still hear me, Blackers?
Yeah, I can hear you, mate.
Oh, good. All right. Yeah, no, I find it sort of comes in waves. I'm like, Patrick said last week. Patrick Dixon, he said, sometimes you're going to feel a little bit more emotional. You'll watch a film and feel like crying, and I'm not feeling like that because we're blokes.
No.
But I'm feeling, I do feel like waves of, it's getting a bit much.
Yeah. I know what you're feeling.
I'm like caged lion, like gnawing my leg off with boredom. Those sort of feelings wash over me, and then I'm all right. I think 20 odd years on the road, it's tough, but I'm determined to try and at least follow the advice because, we don't want this thing to spiral out of control again. I mean, Patrick was really good last week, wasn't he? And I think if no one listened to that, you ought to go and listen to that interview because he said some really good things. We've got to get out there again. Also, we need to be sensible, don't we? But I'm finding some things winding me up a little bit more than normal, if I'm honest. You had a little suggestion about that, I think.
What? Well, I mean, we can talk about the rant if you want, but I was hoping you'd ask me what my lockdown hobby was first.
Are you?
Yeah.
Really? Oh, right.
Yeah.
What are you doing to kill the time then?
Well, I've got a little hobby I wanted to show you. I thought people would be interested. Here's a little comment I thought would be fun. Country file on in the background in case I can't understand the men talk. That's from Barbie. Thanks for joining us, Barbie.
Hold on a minute. No, hold on.
Yeah.
That's implying if you're a man, you don't like the countryside, but we love the animals, don't we?
Yeah.
You got a dog.
Yeah, I know. I'm not a big animal lover. It's got to be fair, and my dog's giving me a lot of trouble at the moment.
Didn't you have a cat? Have you got a cat?
Yeah, I have got a cat, but he got run over. I didn't think you were going to bring that up.
Oh, sorry, mate. Is he dead?
Anyway, I feel like we've got off to a really bad start. Let me show my lockdown hobby. What do you reckon?
Go on.
So, I had a birthday the other day, and you sent me an Amazon voucher, which is very kind of you because I always forget your birthday.
Yeah, you do.
but I was very touched. And you bought, well, you don't know you bought me this. Well, you do because I told you. But I've started to learn how to lockpick in lockdown. um, and I'm actually quite good at it. Offline, when we were in the rehearsal before we went live, I actually did it. Shall I see if I can do it? I'll try and do it as quick as I can. Oh, there you go.
How are you intending on using this newfound skill?
I don't know yet. I just figured it's always good to have tools in the tool belt. Do you know what I mean? So I've got all these
Yeah.
lock picking bits that I can use. Anyway, what are you doing in lockdown, mate? Because I know you like to vary it a little bit.
Yeah, well, you can see behind me, I got myself a new keyboard. I sold some stuff so I could. I can't. There we go. So I sold some stuff because I've been playing the piano since I was 4 and I'm 48. But I had a couple of years off after I renovated my house, so I had to sell the piano. And I play the guitar, and I do a lot of sketching. Look at that.
Nice. Oh, that's nice, mate. That.
Yeah, I do a lot of like a lot of psychedelic doodles.
Very nice.
Yeah, and then like Big Phil, I do a bit of kettlebells every day.
Come on, look at that.
So, yeah,
You're not messing about.
Kettlebell swings, triceps, biceps. I'm, I was doing a bit of skipping, but I damaged my calf. I go for a walk most days, but I've got such a fidget brain. I'm used to just being out and about, so I've got no one hobby. What I can't do is what you do. You know, like you do a bit of gaming, don't you?
Yeah, Call of Duty. I do like a bit of Call of Duty, I must say.
Yeah, like if I try anything like that, I could get bored in 5 minutes. That's my problem. So
Yeah.
So
Mate,
yeah, not. What about Big Phil about his hobby later, because I think he's set up for something else. But someone just said, "Let me hear you on the trumpet." No, I'm not doing that tonight. And there'll be a big reveal. There'll be a big reveal. And I'll do a bit of Sajuk by Stevie Wonder in due course, but not tonight. We'll keep that one back. Anyway, you are right. We were meant to talk about hobbies first, and I started getting onto the rant because I was feeling frustrated, and I'm not quite sure what it is, but I think it's time for a rant.
Come on, Ed.
It's time to put things right with Beechy and Blackers.
All right, so let's have a little rant. I mean, it's not really a rant. It's a conversation, isn't it? It's just a little chat.
Yeah.
But so I was chatting with Nikki, who works for CVM, and she's a wonderful PA to me. She's absolutely brilliant. She's running all of our social media at the moment, which is amazing. So any comments coming up on the screen, she has queued up for me, which is brilliant. There's one from Gasky. So Nikki's husband, Phil, he came up with this rant, and he said it's about people who wear band T-shirts but don't know the band. Is that something? Is that a rant? Do you feel like that's a rant? People who wear band T-shirts and haven't got a clue who they are.
Pincher
is nodding furiously in the background there.
For anyone who wants to know what that disembodied voice is, that was the internet speaking, and they can't hear you. Well, can you show your face quickly, so because we can hear this voice in the background, and can you show yourself, internet? Just so people know what's going on.
Hey.
There he is. The man with an optic fibre beard controls the universe that we inhabit right at this time. So Pincher's nodding his head. I mean, personally, I think you've got to be a little bit. Musicians and musical people are, on the whole, quite highly strung, aren't they?
Yeah. See, I've never been into the whole culture of wearing band T-shirts like AC/DC, Nirvana, Take That. I've never owned a band T-shirt, so I don't really know.
Steps?
Huh?
Steps?
Steps? No.
Take That? You got to take that T-shirt?
Steve is big into band T-shirts. He does wear a few of them. And I guess if you are a purist...
Yeah, I think you've got to be a purist. You've got to be really like proper fans get wound up about plastic fans. For me, the whole T-shirt thing, there's one thing that winds me up about a T-shirt, and that's when there's offensive language on a t-shirt.
Yeah.
Like, I was sitting on a London Underground train with my daughter when she was younger, and a bloke sat opposite me with an F-bomb on the front of his t-shirt. And I could see that my daughter at the time, she's about 5 years old, was staring at the bloke with the F-bomb on his t-shirt, staring at the t-shirt. So I couldn't contain myself. I basically just said, "Excuse me, mate, how would you explain what is written on your t-shirt to my 5-year-old daughter?"
You
'Cause I just
challenged him,
didn't.
did you, on the train?
Yeah,
What happened?
because my daughter was staring at his t-shirt. I said, how would you explain the language on your t-shirt to a 5-year-old girl? Because that's what I've got to do.
Yeah.
So that's my rant. I think don't wear offensive stuff on t-shirts. I mean, I can get more excited about that than the band thing. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You don't look convinced.
Yeah, it's fair enough. It's fair enough.
Why should you put your bad language on my daughter?
Well, we've got a comment here from Robin. Are musicians highly strung? Guitarists are. Ba-boom.
Very good, Robin Fox. Robin Fox actually plays the organ, doesn't he?
He does. He does play the organ. Keith Nesbitt,
does.
if you go to a gig, you deserve to wear a tour t-shirt. Well, that's different. If you've earned it, if you've been to the gig, then you've earned it. Bushby's coming in. Hang on. Let's get one here from Michael Bushby. Don't know if I should admit this. I've got a Spice Girls t-shirt. Oh, mate. That's gone out public, that has, Bushby. Oh,
yeah, that's not good. It's a great to have you on board the show this week, tonight, Bushby. Good to see you.
Yeah.
Right, I don't know. I think I can't get wound up about the band t-shirt, but I can get wound up about people wearing t-shirts with weird language on, because I think it's out of order. Don't inflict your bad manners on me. That's what I think.
Yeah.
But I find that the older I get, the more grumpy I'm becoming about those sort of things, and the more belligerent I'm becoming about it, and less tolerant. But ideally, being a follower of Jesus Christ, I should be becoming more peaceful and tolerant. But on some things, I'm not. I'm not quite sure why that is. I'm doing my best to be a man of God, but it's difficult. I think we should do a little strongman tip with Phil. Where is he? So for those of you that are tuning in for the first time, Shawaddy, that would be an extra large. Very good. Big Phil. Phil Wallace is a gym owner, ex-cop. He's a follower of Christ. Been on the show every week. And every week, being former England's strongest man, we get him to do some strongman tips. And we're asking this week so we've done the deadlift, we've done the bench press, we've done a squat. So I thought we'd look at how we work out the tricep. Over to you, Phil.
Come on, Big Phil. Here he is.
Right. So, evening. Basically, what a lot of people do is they think, "Oh, I want to get big arms. I want to get big arms." So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work my biceps. Okay, work biceps. But what they don't realise is actually 2/3 of your arm is tricep. So if you want big arms, the best thing to do is actually work your triceps. Beechy's asked me today. You asked me today if we could do something that you'd be able to do at home, the lockdown sort of stuff. So I've got the best exercise for a tricep. Basically, the tricep is the tricep contracts when you straighten your arm. So basically, anything from going from that position to that position under pressure will work the tricep out. Okay, triceps down here under the arm, or the bingo wing, as some people say. But what we'll do is basically, I'll describe it now, and then I'll flip the camera around so that you can actually see it. It's like a push-up. Okay, you can do push-ups. Everyone can do push-ups. The closer in you are, so you make a little triangle. That works mainly your triceps. And then as you bring your hands out, more it brings in your chest. So it's less pressure on the triceps. But if we're just trying to go for triceps, we're going to keep it nice and tight. But what an even better exercise to do is I don't even know what it's called actually. I think it's I refer to it as the reverse skull crusher, because at the gym what I'd do is I'd get a bar, I'd hold it, I'd lay back, hold it to there, and extend my arms like that. But obviously, if you're at home in lockdown, you haven't got a bar. What we'll do is I shall just bear with me, and I shall do it on my living room floor for us. Right. Okay. So what we're going to do is you go into a press-up position, but what I want you to do is you want to stick your bum in the air and actually just bend at the elbows so your head goes in between your hands. Okay, so it looks like this.
Oh, right.
Okay. That's good, that.
So you can see the tricep. Tip. You can see the tricep. I'll go back.
That's good, that, yeah.
Okay, so even someone like myself, I'm quite strong. I can feel that working the triceps. That's quite hard. So if you want to make it easier, you don't stick your bum in the air as much, or you don't do as much movement. But what you want to be aiming for, head in between your hands, like that. Yep. Okay, keep your elbows nice and tucked in, and that'll get you bigger arms than doing biceps with cans of beans in the lockdown.
That's a fantastic tip for an indoor tricep thing. So how many reps, how much does the average person do?
Well, if we want to get a little bit of basically muscle growth, what we need to do is we need to micro tear the muscles. And that's done by putting them under strain. So what happens is they break down during the workout, because that's why you get sore. And then after a few days, it starts to build up. But because you put them under stress, they actually grow back that little bit stronger. So we want to be doing around 3 sets of 8 to 10 reps. That's the best goal for getting basically a little bit stronger, and basically you get a lot better tone as well for your muscles. 3 sets of 10 of that, and then do some triangle press ups as well. Do 3 sets of 10 of that, and I guarantee your triceps will be feeling it after that. Definitely.
Fantastic. Some brilliant tips there. Just before we move on, one of the things that me and Blackers were talking about earlier was, I mean, how can a man reassure himself that he is a man? And different testosterone, estrogen. Listening now, how could they know what simple tests apply to know that you are a man? Or you've got testosterone. There's the obvious one. But what about testosterone levels or estrogen?
Right. Okay. So yeah, actually, I'm glad you said that actually, because there is ways of being able to actually kind of give you a bit of a idea of how much testosterone is in your system. So the more testosterone in your system, the more you're going to be able to build muscles. So if you put your hand up in front of you like this, okay, what happens, okay, is as you're in your mother's womb, you're exposed to estrogen and testosterone. So the more testosterone you're exposed to in your womb, it reflects on the ring finger. So you see my ring finger's quite a bit longer than the pointing finger. Okay. Yeah. So the ring finger represents how much testosterone you were exposed to in your mother's womb, and the pointing finger, which is shorter, represents what you were exposed to, the estrogen you were exposed to in your mother's womb. So it's a general idea of how much muscle you'd probably be able to pack on, because the more testosterone, the more ability you have to put on muscle.
Hold on, let's just compare me and Blackers' fingers here. Hold your hand up.
Do that. I'll do it.
Come on. Don't. What's going on? Come on. Show us your fingers.
Mine are level.
So
it's level. I've got a substantially testosterone-driven physique, obviously. Obviously, I'm pure rhinoceros. That is clearly a thing. Wouldn't you say that, Phil?
From the gap in between the two heights, yes, you have naturally more levels of testosterone, I'd say, than Blackers, unfortunately.
That can't be true. I'm sorry, but we need a doctor to give us a verdict on that. I'm not having that.
We'll
it's only a guide. It's only a guide. I wouldn't take it as absolute gospel, but that's basically an idea of how much testosterone.
It's only a guide.
The gap between the two fingers.
Let's be clear. It's only a guide, and we shouldn't take it as gospel, but it's 99.99% accurate as a test. Anyway, I think we should.
Yeah. I think Big Phil has a question for you. So I'm fat, unfit, and unmotivated. If I do this for 1 week, will I look like you, or do I need to do it longer than a week?
At least give it 2 weeks. At least give it 2 weeks. If you're really smart about it. I mean, that's Yeah. Well, 2 weeks ago I was only 8 stone. Now I'm 22 stone. So, yeah. It's
we get
basically
a lot of comments.
if you're struggling to get into a habit, it's one of those things. No one's going to do it for you. You have to just get on and do it yourself. Just once I think it takes something like about 6 weeks to get into a proper routine. You'll find it a lot easier after doing 6 weeks of training. I promise you.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I think it's moving on. It's time for a game of battleships.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's game time with Beechy and Blackers.
Hands to action stations. Hands to action stations.
I forgot we had that.
Right. So let me take a shot. We'll have one shot each, shall we?
Yeah, go on then. One shot. Take your shot. I'm not enjoying this segment.
F9.
That's a miss.
Oh, all right. Yeah.
B6.
That's a hit. It's a hit.
That's the first hit in 6 episodes. Oh my word! I can't believe
I'm
it.
not going to lie.
Assume.
The comments
End
are all
the
crazy.
CD state 1. Condition Zulu.
Come on.
And I'm not going to lie. It's actually quite a strategic ship that you hit there, so we'll move on from that quite quickly. I think it's time for a bit of music trivia with Pincher.
From a dusty cabin miles away, it's the man known only as Pincher. It's only Pincher's music trivia.
Evening.
Hello.
How are we? All right. Yeah, can we just before we go into that, I have got a comment on band t-shirts.
Here we go.
All right.
You have got a comment very quickly. I just want to show you one. Here you go. Bang that one up. Here we go, internet. Look at that. That is a band t-shirt. The Cosmic Vending Machine. Have we got the other side of that? Their internet. Here we go. The Graham Hendricks Tour. And that's what we did. We covered Graham Hendricks songs in the mode of Jimi Hendrix. Anyway, moving on. This week, as you're probably a lot of you are aware, we lost the legend of Steve Priest from Sweet. But we're not going to do that this week. We're going to do a glam special next week. Last couple of weeks, we've been looking at some rock and roll stuff, 78s, Fats Domino, Little Richard, Lonnie Gonigan. Last week, we looked at Blondie and their cover of an old R&R doo-wop song. So this week, let's look at, in my opinion, the last great rock and roll band. No, not the Stones, but this lot, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. They emerged from LA in the mid-70s. Are a mix of the Byrds, aforementioned Stones are in there, and the vocals a bit Dylan-esque. So he started off, Tom Petty, in a band called Mud Crutch, and they're on the Duke here somewhere, I think. He actually reformed them recently and released a couple of albums from Mud Crutch. With the Heartbreakers, he released well over a dozen albums, with the last, Hypnotic Eye, coming out in 2014. But they were best live. What a live band. And I had in 2012, as you can see, I've got a ticket stub here. I was happy to see them at the Royal Albert Hall. What a gig, with my old mate Clive from Brighton. And as far as that went, it concreted in me that they were indeed the last great rock and roll band. Tom Petty ended up in that supergroup, actually, in the 80s, the Travelling Wilburys, with Bob Dylan, Roy Orbison, George Harrison, Jeff Lynne. What a lineup that was. Made two albums, and the second one was called Volume 3, obviously. Tom Petty died in 2017, left us a great legacy Learning to Fly, Won't Back Down, Running Down a Dream, American Girl. But before we spin their first hit, which is we're going to spin that in a minute, the UK from June 77, the little PS, Mike Campbell, an incredible underrated guitarist from the Heartbreakers, recently replaced, it now plays guitar in Fleetwood Mac, which is quite interesting. Anyway, we're going to spin this from June 1977. Oh, what? Hang on, I've got a bit of a snag with the Duke here, so we're just going to have a quick look. Let's go get the Uckers board out of the way. There we are. So we're going to show you the internals of this week. We're going to get this spinning. We're going to use the Duke to show you at the height of punk, June 77. This amazing song came out, and it's the song called Anything That's Rock and Roll. But here we go. There's the drum rotating. You can see that going round. The drum's spinning underneath. There it goes. Selector's turning, and it will find it. This little selector pins will find. There we go, and it will lift it up over onto the turntable. And we're going to go have a quick look back here, remind ourselves of this amazing song, and we're going to spin Anything That's Rock and Roll by the legend that is Tom Petty from June 1977. What a song, what a player, the last great rock and roll band. Cheers, fellas. See you next week for a bit of glam.
Cheers, Pinch.
Cheers, Pinch. Absolutely fantastic. And full respect to the T-shirt collection as well. And what a jukebox, everybody. And absolutely beautiful. And Pincher does know a bloke who restores them locally around the Chesterfield area. Maybe get him on for an interview sometime. I think it'd be absolutely fascinating. I think it's time for our live interview.
Ladies and gentlemen, Beechy and Blackers bring to you the Sunday Night Live interview.
And tonight we've got with us a great mate of ours, a great friend to Christian Vision for Men, performed at the Gathering, national comedian, and much more than that these days, Andy Kind. So great to have you with us, Andy. Let's give him a bit of a welcome here.
Hello.
And who have you got with you there, Andy?
Well, I've got Arthur Wellesley, Duke of Wellington, and I've just been working out my testosterone levels, and I'm doing pretty well, actually. I've got some quite good sizes on that. I'm a proper man's man, so that's great.
So, Andy, why don't you tell us a bit about who you are, what you're about, and what you were doing to what you are doing now? Just like give us a brief, this is Andy kind of thing.
What if I don't want to, though? No, I will.
Tough.
I promise. Imagine if I just was like really passive aggressive, refused to say anything. So I am a comedian. I've been a comedian for 15 years, and I've been traveling around the country doing comedy, and I've performed in every comedy club that people will have heard of. Done a lot of work for churches. Quite quickly felt like I wanted to be a resource for the church, so I've been doing that. And then more recently, moving into preaching, which is not something that I really planned to do or wanted to do, but the Lord will have His way. So and now a preacher and a comedian, a promedian is my branding, and I work for a little church in Chesterfield called Redeemer King Church, which you might have heard of as well, Carl.
No, I want to deny knowledge of knowing anything about it outside of Chesterfield. So so Andy and I are on staff together at Redeemer King's Church of Planted, coming up 6 years ago now, and
Wow.
We've ridden a few waves there together, haven't we, mate? So it's been and seeing salvation during lockdown. You're running an Alpha course, so we've seen some great stuff, haven't we?
Alpha is going so well, and over Zoom we thought it would be really awkward and weird, and week one probably was, but we've got several people on Alpha who would probably already, we're only halfway through, would probably already say that they're now following Jesus, and so we're going to course as well. And I think hopefully it helps that I'm running it, because I can do the banter, I can do the comparing, so we're never far away from having a bit of a laugh. And I've got this amazing Russian accent that I do, which everybody hates, and so I just do it incessantly, really. But yeah, we're mixing the funny stuff with the serious stuff, and looking forward to seeing what happens as we continue to, find different ways to reach people during this vacillating lockdown.
Tell us this journey from being a comedian to a preacher. I know that I regularly get messages from people saying, I want to be a preacher, how do I go about it? Or how do you know if God's calling you to do this? So maybe just share that journey briefly, because what I think me and Blackers really want to talk to you about as well is what makes the gospel so distinctive. Yeah. You'd be so passionate to leave the career that you've been working on to come and do what you're doing. But tell us a bit about that journey, and maybe we start to explore why you are so passionate about the message of Christ.
Yeah, I think obviously nothing is a total meritocracy. So I always think about, if you think about the best English footballer of the 1990s was Matt Le Tissier, and he had fewer England caps than Carlton Palmer or Jeff Thomas. And so actually there's always a degree to which you have to fit, your face has to fit, and you have to be in the right place at the right time. So nothing's a meritocracy, but I think I realized eventually that I was really good at comedy without being amazing at comedy. So I got quite close to some of those TV shows, but a miss is as good as a mile. And the church gigs that I was doing were great, and they were going well, and I was getting lots of people and seeing people sign up for Alpha through that. But really, I felt like I'd hit a bit of a glass ceiling, and I just wanted something a bit more than that. The church gigs are always basically the same. There's no hierarchy of church gig, and there's no real progression or evolution. And then a few years ago, I just felt the Lord say to me when I was praying, I want you to go around the world preaching the gospel. And I felt a little bit duped at the time, because I thought that's not fair that I thought I was getting into this to go on live at the Apollo and mock the week. And inadvertently, I've built up this skill set that makes me perfect for preaching. And it's something I didn't want to do. But now, obviously, it's the thing I love doing. I love doing the most. And I'm in my late 30s now. You just get to a point, for me, it was in my mid 30s, where I thought, okay, statistically, I'm about halfway through, and I'm not sure really what I've made count. I'm not sure what value I've added to the kingdom. I've made some money, and I've had lots of people laugh at me. But so what? There's got to be more to than simply, being away from family so much, being away from home, sitting in service stations all the time, and doing well at comedy without really seeing that huge progression. So, yeah, that was the journey.
I just popped into my head. You told an amazing story about something that happened in you overseas once. I think some prophetic moment with a lady, wasn't there? And I maybe we'll try and create time, because I think that so encouraged you to hear that story. But can you tell us? I mean, you're a fantastic evangelist, outstanding communicator. But what is it that's so distinctive about the gospel that you would stake everything on it?
Yeah, sure. And this is the thing that, as you and I have discussed in the past, this is like not my party piece, but this is the bee in my bonnet, if you like. I love to talk about the gospel and how it compares to not just other religions, but other worlds, because we call it the gospel, which means news. But if everybody else is offering good news, then Christians are just arrogant. We should say we've got some news, or part of the good news. So we can only call it the gospel if the other news is bad. And what I spend a lot of my time reading about is the question, or have spent a lot of my time researching, whether other people have good news. And let me put it this way, there's lots of ways you can come at it. But all writing, all story, all films are about identity. The big question that everybody asks is, who am I? That's the big question of life. Who am I? And let's look at what some of the other worldviews say about that. So if you say to a Buddhist, who am I? A Buddhist, if they were to be faithful to the fundamentals of Buddhism, would have to say, well, you're nothing. You're nothing, because all reality is actually just illusion. So who am I? Well, you're nothing. You say to a Hindu, who am I? And they would have to say, if they want to be faithful to the fundamentals of Orthodox Hinduism, well, you're nobody. Yourself does not exist. You are just part of the absolute. But your journey is to eradicate yourself. So the goal of Hinduism is not self-fulfillment, but self-extinction. You do not exist as a personal identity. So a Buddhist would say you're nothing. A Hindu would say you're nobody. You ask a Muslim, who am I? They would have to say, if they want to be faithful to the fundamentals of Islam, well, you're nobody very important. It may well be that Allah will show mercy on you if your good works outweigh your bad deeds, but he doesn't have to, and he's not really that bothered. He's just not that into you. So whether you receive mercy or not, it doesn't flow out of God's nature as a God of love, because the God of Islam is not primarily a God of love. So you're nobody very important. You say to an atheist, who am I? And an atheist, to be true to the fundamentals of an atheistic worldview, would have to say, it's not who you are, it's what you are. And what you are is simply a collection of molecules and chemicals, impressively ordered and represented, albeit, but nevertheless, you are nothing more than, the lingering odor of a cosmic burp. You are simply cosmic shrapnel. So that's who you are. You say to a Christian, who am I? And a Christian would have to say, if they want to be faithful to the fundamentals of Christianity, oh yes, I know who you are. I was trying to place you and I know who you are. You're that person that Jesus died for. You're that person that God knew before he formed you in your mother's womb, came to find you in your suffering, told you that you were worth dying for, proved it by doing it, and offers you life eternal. You're that person who, even if you were the only person left on earth, Jesus would still have gone to the cross for you so that death didn't have to beat you. So that's who you are. That's who you are, because that's who he is. So in terms of the question of identity, there's only one story offering you good news. If atheism is true, death wins. If Islam is true, power, but not your power, wins. If Hinduism is true, confusion wins. If Buddhism is true, nothingness wins. There's one story where love wins. If you want love to win, if you believe that love should win, there's one come, and it's the cross.
Talk to me about where repentance makes such a big difference in your view. How the cross works. So, let me say, someone's listening to this now. I know people are watching this who aren't followers of Christ, and they're living their life in a trajectory, and they're saying, okay, so God is love. How do I actually make the change? How does the cross work? What have I got to do? What do I do next? What happens?
Yeah, great question. So unconditional love, God's unconditional love is not the same as unconditional relationship. You can love someone unconditionally and still not be able to be in the same room as them. A single mother who's got two abusive teenage lads who attack her, she will never stop loving them, but she wouldn't be able to have them in the house. So unconditional love is not the same as unconditional relationship. Again, we'd want to ground it in the uniqueness of Christ. So I've got a list of 4 things here where Jesus Christ is unique, and then I'll feed into talking about how you respond to that. So this is how Jesus is unique. Christianity is unique. Number 1, God is knowable here and now. So God is definitely knowable. You can know him personally because he is personal, and so are you. There are 2 separate entities there, and you can have a relationship with him here and now, not just when you die, but here and now. You can definitely know him. That's number one. Number two, he loves you unconditionally and demonstrates that by dying for you. So Romans 5, this is how God demonstrates his love for us, as in, this is how we know God loves us. Christ died for us. So there's the proof. Number three, your debt, your sin, your guilt, whatever you want to call it, can be paid once and for all now. All these really cool Eastern religions, they're all about paying off debt. That's what karma is. It's about paying off your debt that you've built up over your previous lives. And you don't know how much debt you've got to pay off, and you don't know how long you've got to pay it off. But if you talked about eternal life to someone from Hinduism, that might sound like a threat, because they don't want eternal having to pay off this debt. And yet in Colossians 2, it talks about how Jesus took the legal indebtedness that stood against us and condemned us, and he took it away and nailed it to the cross. Simples. So by coming into that relationship with Jesus, you can know that your debt, your guilt, your sin is paid for, as in it won't condemn you, it won't beat you, it doesn't get to have the final say. And then number four, you can have the assurance of salvation. So even in Islam, Muhammad, the founder of Islam, didn't know whether he'd lived a good enough life to get to heaven. And even if he had, the Islamic view of heaven is wine and women. God's not there. It's wine and women, which is great if you're a pirate from the 1700s. If you're a buccaneer, that's perfect. But for lots of people, that doesn't scratch an itch. Whereas Jesus says, because I live, you will live also. So you come into that relationship, you come to the cross, and you have the assurance of salvation. Fullness of life starts now, but you can be guaranteed that you will be with Christ for eternity. And then you've got to choose it. You've got to choose it, because heaven isn't a treat for a life well lived. Heaven isn't Centre Park, Sherwood Forest. Heaven is the undiluted presence of God. If you don't want to be with God forever, you don't have to be, because his love is so much that he won't force you to be. But where else are you expecting to go? There is no place that God can to be happy where he isn't, because he is the source of joy. He is the source of love. He is the source of light and life. So repentance simply means saying, I'm going to turn around from the life I've been living where I am the king of my life. Because, there's only one Lord of the Rings, and he doesn't share power. Like, Phil is one of the strongest men in Britain, but he's not going to flaunt that when he comes face to face with Christ, because actually, comparatively, Phil cannot bench press the sins of the world on his shoulders, no matter how strong he is on Instagram. So it's all about comparison. Repentance simply means turning away from the life you've been living where you are the king, and turning around to face and follow the actual king. And then, you get that he gets. You get the suffering. Life is hard, but you get the joy and the freedom and the peace. But you've got to make that change. Repentance doesn't mean, the final point, repentance doesn't mean stop being naughty. Repentance means change your mind about who you are in the light of who God is. Based on what I've said of the offer of Christianity, the uniqueness of Christianity, that God came to find you when you felt like nothing and offered you everything. Why wouldn't you want to follow him? Why wouldn't you want to turn around? Why wouldn't you want that better story?
That's amazing, mate. And it's so well put. And I think I just want to say, if you're listening to this and you're a follower of Christ, that is a fantastic refresher of what we believe. And you want to listen to that back and you want to soak it up. But if you are not yet a follower of Jesus, we say this nearly every week, if not every week. Find a quiet spot tonight and maybe start to reach out. You can say a small yes to God and say, look, if you're there, would you start to speak to me? Would you show yourself to me? Reveal more of yourself to me? It might be that you're ready to follow Jesus, in which case you could get somewhere quiet and say a prayer and say, I'm sorry for the way I've been living. I'll live for you now. I believe you lived, died and rose again, Jesus. I'll follow you now. And you enter into the family of heaven at that moment. But then you've got to find some other Christians, find a church, contact us on the CVF Facebook page. We'll connect you to one of the many hundreds of men's groups you've got out there, or a church. You know, you might be a woman listening to this. We'll connect you to a church, and we'll help you in those first steps and send you some resources. So actually phenomenally important stuff we just heard there. Blackers, I don't know if any questions are coming for Andy specifically, just to close out, if there's one or two key ones before we move on.
Just lots of encouragement, really, mate. People saying that they've really enjoyed tonight. Wish I'd watched before. Ben Clark, what an amazing communicator. The gospel spoken with such clarity. I mean, loads of really positive stuff. Andy, do you want to mention Ultimate Survival Guide? We interviewed Jonathan Sherwin a little while ago on this, and obviously you were part of this book. Do you want to just mention what that was about?
Yeah, sure thing. So the Ultimate Survival Guide is a book we did a few years ago, and it's just a very basic entry-level book into what we've just been talking about, really. Some of the arguments that we have to defend, you know, the truth of the gospel. Because we do believe that actually it's good news. No one else is offering good news. Other people might offer you good advice, but we've actually got good news. And so the survival guide is just 25 different questions that people are asking and how you might start to answer those sort of questions.
Brilliant.
Amazing.
And I just want to say as well, that Andy is a freelance, self-employed communicator and evangelist, as well as performer. And you can get in touch with him through Facebook or the Redeemer King Facebook page, or he could drop us on at CVM if you want, or his own personal Facebook. And if you want him to do a talk for you, you'd love that, wouldn't you, mate? If you're available, because I know you get really booked up. Yeah. And it's just fantastic gospel communicators. We just want to showcase that as well, because Andy is a gift and a resource to the church. Yeah. Thank you so much, mate. Thank you for coming on. We're out of time now, but we'll get you back to share some of the other encouragements you got as we go along. But top job, mate. Honestly, superb. Thanks so much for coming on. I think, Blackers, we need to move on and get a little update from you on the gathering. What's happening?
Yes, mate. Update on the gathering. So we are currently building and developing a stage in Chesterfield where you and me are going to be live hosting the gathering this year. So 26th to 27th of June, Beechy and I will be live Friday through to Saturday. It's going to be a late Friday night and a late Saturday night. We've got loads of content, loads of fun lined up, and we're going to try and do some stuff, some gags and all the fun and banter that we normally do, but some original stuff too. But inside of all that will be a clear gospel presentation. So we do want to encourage you to tune in. If you don't know Jesus, or you're just interested, just looking, or you know some mates who might want to tune into the gathering online, then do recommend it, do share it, and invite your mates. It's going to be a great weekend. We've got loads of stuff lined up, live musicians, we've got comedians, all the banter, all the fun. So it is different this year, as obviously we're in lockdown and we're presenting the gathering from a field, from underneath the field in Swindon. But it's going to still be a good weekend, right, mate?
Yeah, and honestly, it's the kind of thing where, you know us, we muck about, we have a laugh, so you can put your mates in front of it who don't know Jesus. Let them know about this. And me and Nathan are going to be communicating the gospel on Friday and Saturday night, and I will preach your decision on Saturday night and with mechanisms for follow-up. So, look, join in, because you'll find it encouraging, but tell your mates as well and spread the word, share the links on Facebook, email it about.
Yes, mate. Yeah, and we're saying Friday night, put your tent up, get involved, have a bit of fun with us. We've also got a military theme on the Saturday night, which is why I've got my ghillie suit here ready to go. But we've also got a quick cheeky video and a slide. Here, let's have a look at the slide if Al's got it ready. So here's a little slide. 26th to 27th of June on a screen near you. Again, Facebook, live or YouTube. And then a little video here about how you can get involved.
When we were going to do the gathering in a field near Swindon, we were going to have a 70s theme, but we decided now it's the bunker edition to go for a military theme. Now, there's a variety of ways in which you could go about that. You could just get a tin hat, you could get a beret, you could get some camouflage kit, you could go Royal Navy, you could go Air Force, you could go British Army, you could do a military camp set up in your garden. There's a whole different set of things that you could do.
or you could try something else. So we're getting some questions here, mate. Here's one interesting one. Looking forward to it. Any tips on how to watch it as a group? Do you want to take that, Beechy?
You've got a
Oh,
video,
we've got
have
a
you?
video.
Let's have a video for that one. Let's have a look.
TG20 Online Bunker Edition. Now, obviously, with social distancing, you need to be smart about how you do this. You might be setting up at home on a Friday night, tent in your living room or in your garden, or you might not be doing that stuff. It's up to you. But I do encourage you to engage with us and get involved. Maybe you could even get a projector set up in your garden. And I think the law is now 6 mates around. If you're socially distanced, you might be able to do the Friday night with us together. What do you think, Beechy?
I tell you what I think, mate. I think we need to see some good setups. I think we need to see some barbecues. We need to see some steak. We need to see some pineapple fritters. We need to go for it and invite your mates. In the most appropriate way, of course, considering the times. But that's what I think we should be doing. And let's make this thing a weekend to remember. TG, the Bunker Edition.
There you go.
Yes, they are, and I think if you've got a sufficient garden space, you could set up an outdoor projector if the weather's all right, and as long as you keep your distance, you have 6 blokes in the garden with you. You could do a drive-in. We know that some people are doing drive-in events for Father's Day and stuff, so you could all drive in your cars and watch it on a big screen in a church car park. There's things you can do. We just need to innovate a little bit and think around it, don't we? So it's going to be a laugh, and we want photos sent in to us of your setups and stuff. So we will dish out a prize. Send you a code face mask or something. Anyway.
Yeah, there's loads of stuff there. We've also got the face masks online, some little sort of cottony face coverings that you can buy. But yeah, there they are. Look, face covers, £6 each. It's all available. So yeah, you can access that on the CVM website. Also, just quickly on the CVM website, please don't forget Father's Day coming up very soon. 21st, I think it is. So CVM have produced a load of free resources to help you run a really good Father's Day service online, and a brand new, second edition version of Founding Fathers as well. So yeah, that's fully available. Have a look online. Mate, should we have a little clip of the week? We haven't done this in a while.
I think so, mate. Yeah, let's do it.
Right. So I've been putting together these clips, these video clips of sports activities or sort of human endeavours that I think are sort of as good as Olympic events.
Yeah.
And I'm suggesting that these are and should be considered as Olympic events. So here's the first one. Hopefully in a minute we will have it. It's here we go. So this is extreme ladder climbing. Look at the speed of this.
Wow.
That's actually quite amazing. Look, here it is again on the big screen. Look at that.
They've got these safety ropes there.
They got what, mate? Safety ropes?
They've got safety ropes.
No.
But they're wearing crash helmets.
Yeah, just hooks on the top of the ladder.
That is amazing. I've never seen anything like that. That is phenomenal. Yeah.
I know.
Hey, I'll tell you what I watched the other day. I was watching that free solo film about Alex Honnold, who climbs up. He climbs up without ropes up the huge Yellowstone National Park cliff face. Mate. Free solo, it's called. I think it's on Netflix. Well worth a look at. Anyway, what's your next one?
So my next one, I think, is worthy of a mention. This is long-range golf driving. So it's one shot, hit the ball as hard as you can. I think this could be an Olympic event. Let's have a little look.
Free shot routine here.
Oh, I mean, he's really hit that. 410 yards.
Wow.
I mean, I'm not a golfer, but that is a massive drive.
That's insane.
Yeah. So I think that could be an Olympic event. I think I'd enjoy that. I think we need more variety in the Olympics. It's got a bit stale, hasn't it? We've got some comments here. Any videos of extreme ladder climbing gone wrong? Yeah, no.
I'm sure they're
No.
available. Yeah.
And here's my third pick of the week. This is professional sign flipping. I think this needs a shout out. Look at this. Look. That's all right, isn't it?
Yeah, but what's happened there is that poor fella. He's got himself a job because he wants to graft, and there's not many jobs around. So he's got himself a job holding a sign on the street corner. He's developed it into an art form to stay with the bottom. What an absolute legend! He's probably out there in all weathers as well, and that is a way to make your job. And that's a bloke who's an optimist, isn't it? He's not moaning. Extreme ironing. Yeah, we could certainly have a look at that in future weeks. I've seen that one before. Ironing off the cliffs and stuff like that.
There's lots of comments coming in, loads flying in tonight. It's really encouraging. Thanks for all the encouraging comments. We do appreciate it.
Love the comments. We know we can't answer all of them. Do keep flying in because we look back later as well. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, we do. Negative ones we don't even bother reading, but thanks for the positive ones.
Yeah.
Look at that. Somehow Bushby put a photo in.
I don't know
how he did that. Respect to you, Bushby. Mate, should we have a cheeky top three, the official top three?
Yeah, go on.
It's time for the official CBM top three.
Right. I've also had a bit of a hand in with this. So this is the CBM, the official top three engine noises. Now, this is going to be quite a contentious issue because obviously you and I are bikers, and I've not included like Fireblade, 1000cc, Ducati, V-twin.
No, and I'm not happy about this list. And I didn't say anything until now. And because obviously I've seen it, I've pre-production, I've seen the list. And why is a Spitfire on it? Why is the Rolls-Royce Merlin engine not in your list?
Yeah, that's actually a very good point. I just went for cars.
Yeah, you have. Well,
yeah.
What's that?
Yeah, that's a really good shout, mate. I hadn't even thought about that. Anyway, let's move on. I'm sorry, I've made a mistake. Here we go. Let's have the first one. What we got?
I can't hear it. Oh, this is nice.
Classic Ford Capri 2.85. Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah, that's nice. That's nice. What's your next one?
My next one is actually, see, I'm a turbo guy. I love turbocharged vehicles, but in this instance, I went for a supercharged whine because I don't think you can beat a supercharger. Let's have a listen to it. There you go.
Just want to be there, didn't you? You just
say what? People can't see this, but Big Phil in the background, he's got my back on this one. I know he has. Superchargers are the way to go. Oh, we're getting comments here that 11-year-old James is saying it should be a Lamborghini Huracan.
I've got a clip of Big Phil's car. Before you do the final one, let's see if you can hear this. I don't know if you can be able to hear it from your phone, but hold on. That's Big Phil's Mustang.
Big Phil's Mustang. Yeah. Come on, he's giving double thumbs up in the background. Right, my last one, because time's going on, we want to get the mancologist on. So this is pre-changes, Formula 1 V12 before Formula 1 ruined the Formula 1 with turbos and all that rubbish. Yeah, those days are gone, mate.
Those days are gone.
Those
It's
days are
beautiful, isn't it?
gone.
Yeah, it's beautiful, man. Yeah.
We do need to move on, mate. I was talking to someone recently about the F-35. So development of the new plane, the F-35. What are your feelings about planes and the F-14? Give us some feedback. What are you thinking?
Well, I was a kid when Top Gun came out, and we all wanted to be fighter pilots. It was like 1989, 87, something like that. And one of the things that's always puzzled me was how, when they're flying an F-14, they can swing the wings back and all that kind of. I mean, do you remember that scene where they go, Maverick, we're going supersonic, I'll be there in 30 seconds. You've seen like 500 miles, that kind of thing. I've always wondered, how on earth do you fly an F-14? We need to ask a mancologist.
Hey, Beechy.
Hi, mancologist. So, we're big fans of Top Gun, and obviously Tom Cruise, Maverick, flew the F-14, and that was obviously real life, not a film. How do you fly an F-14?
Flying an F-14 jet. Once you've done all your basic checks, then anti-collision lights on. Engine crank switch to left engine. Make sure engines are at 1 RPM. Left fuel cutoff handle push to commence fuel flow and engine start. Engine crank switch to right engine. Engine at 2 RPM. Right fuel cutoff handle push to commence fuel flow and engine start. Remember, maintain a minimum distance of 50 meters from preceding aircraft to prevent foreign object damage. Taxi light on. Internal lighting as required. Fore pumps on. Rear pumps on. Brakes release. Now for takeoff. Throttle 80 to 85% RPM. Check oil pressure, RPM, ITT and hydraulics to ensure correct operations. Airspeed at 140 KIAS. That's knots indicated airspeed. Rotate. Landing gear and flaps up, climbing at 250 to 300 knots. Throttle at full afterburner. Brakes release. Airspeed at 130 KIAS. Rotate 30 degrees. Landing gear and flap up. Climb at best rate of climb holding 250 KIAS until clear of obstacles. Once up, landing gear up, flaps up, air brake in. Check LG indicators out, flap indicating up and air brake indicating in by 200 KIAS. And you're off.
Boom.
She knows everything. It's like, whatever you ask her, she knows everything. And now we feel fully equipped to fly an F-14. Well, for me and Blackers and Big Phil and Andy and Pincher and the internet with the optic fibre beard, thanks so much for tuning in. That's another week. Beechy and Blackers. Spread the word, share the love, and we'll see you next week.